in the middle of this month, we went around Asia by Zoom and live meetings in China, Hong Kong, and Singapore, and talked to some 150 of the biggest manufacturers in Asia. And the story they had 2 weeks ago in the middle of March is they were scrambling. They were running out of capacity. They were running short of components. Price hikes were coming from all of their suppliers, whether it was plastics, right? So it's not just a matter of containers or chips. With the oil price going up, the costs of plastics are going up. Industrial components are also becoming all of the little fiddly things that go together to make a notebook computer or a printer or a TV or an electrical appliance. Everything was in short supply. So getting on top of that scramble has been the #1 focus for manufacturers in Asia so far. And as we look at it, it gets worse every quarter to the end of this year. So to your question, is that going to push up inflation? Yes, it is one of the biggest factors that's going to push up inflation this year. Back to you.
But when do you think it's going to start calming down? I mean, just to take, for example, the Suez Canal situation. I mean, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tricky, but they'll eventually get it dislodged at some stage, hopefully. And how much of the other inflation that we've been seeing, for example, commodity prices up over 50, 60%. How much is that eventually going to die down too?
Not this year. As I said, it gets worse every quarter. Now, what's going on look, 2 countries are really driving this surge in demand. It is not a global lift, although most of us will be lifted by what these 2 countries do. They are, of course, the United States and China. Collectively, these 2 countries deliver more than 40% of global demand. And you look at what's happened to forecasts for growth for these economies in the last 2 weeks, just the last 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago, the OECD comes out and it lifts its forecast for the United States. I think it was around 3.2%. It more than doubles it, up to 6.5. That is the top end of the US growth band. In China, they set a goal of about 6% growth this year. But pretty much every private sector economist looking at what happened in China in the first 2.5 months of this year says it's going to be closer to 9%. Now, these 2 economies are moving to the top end of their growth band. And what that does is, instead of simply being catch-up demand, which is what everyone anticipated from a big fall last year, inventories would rebuild, now the situation we've got is the level of demand is above the trend prior to the pandemic. And no one's made investment to support that level of demand. So you can't just find another factory or switch on another alternative. You literally run out of capacity. So 2 weeks ago, when we were talking to manufacturers, the types of problems they were getting were their suppliers were declaring force majeure, meaning they could not fulfill the contract. They literally couldn't ship product to their customer, or they were talking about allocation. So you order 200,000 units from your key supplier, and the supplier comes back and says, sorry, mate, we've only got 50,000 units for you in the next 2 quarters. You are really scrambling to get on top of it. And as I said, this doesn't ease up until the end of the year. China and the United States, the lift in demand is driving it. It is really tough.